Hello, and welcome to Bubbly Bibbly, the podcast about books and bubbles, literature and libations, authors, and alcohol. I'm Rachel, and this was my brainchild.
And I am Carmen, and I'm just along for the ride.
So tonight, Carmen and I are actually doing this podcast through Zoom, and right now, I'm drinking out of an old Galette's Tuscaloosa sippy cup, and I'm having vodka tonic with leftover vodka from my 4th of July Jell-O shots. And it's called Red, White, and Berry. And when I first got the vodka to do the Jell-O shots, yes, I'm over 50 and I'm still doing Jell-O shots. I opened the vodka and I let my daughter smell it. And I'm like, what does this smell like? Because I couldn't tell if it was strawberry, raspberry, what it was. And she said, Mom, that smells like a hangover.
Okay, wait. You are, like I am, in your 50s. You're still making Jell-O shots? Rachel, there is just another layer of love in our friendship now.
So, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a delightfully affordable Pinot Grigio. It is by Turning Leaf, and I buy the biggest bottle I can without it coming in a box. Not that I am against boxed wine, but I don't have room for it in my refrigerator.
That's awesome. I love cheap wine. Trader Joe's, they used to have the $5 Chuck. So,
$5 Chuck?
Yes. And it was their wine, $5 Chuck, and they'd have a whole a whole little.
I love that. I love also to get wines from Aldi because they are German and they're also very affordable. So I'm with you. I like cheap wine. Well, I'm excited about this because I think I'm going to be introduced to some new bubbly, thanks to you. I think you're a little more versed in bubbly than I am. And I love that you want to drink and read at the same time.
Exactly. There's nothing perfect than a good book and a great glass of wine.
Well, this is our inaugural podcast, and we're excited to be bringing a little fun and laughter to your day. Some of the things you should expect from our podcast is that you will be adding to your wish list of books you want to read, because we're going to be going over several different books, genres, literature, you name it, we'll probably be talking about it. And we're also going to be encourage you to try just more than a $5 bottle of wine. We're going to try different cocktails and champagne and sparkling wine and cremant and mousseux.
Oh, wait a minute. You're using words that I've never heard of.
Well, so we all know, I don't know, Champagne comes from the Champagne region in France, which is 100 miles outside of Paris. And sparkling wine is got the little bubbles in it, and it makes it fizzy. And then cremant is a group of sparkling wines that use the same techniques as champagne, but it's not from that region. And then Monceau, mousy wine. I don't know. It's French for sparkling, but they don't use that champagne technique. They just make it sparkly.
Okay. And good. And for balance, I'll bring the wild turkey recipes.
There we go. Exactly. We're always good for a drink or a shot.
As a matter of fact, on our webpage, you even put a place for cocktail recipes, which I adore.
Yes, we're going to be putting all our recipes that we drink online at our website, www.bubblybibbly.com. So
let's tell everybody how we got started.
Yeah, so let's do that. So we're sorority sisters, and we, I guess we met when we were in our 20s, and we did a lot of fun things in college, and then we had our life, and we moved on, and I don't know, we've gotten reconnected in the last couple of years, but we were celebrating a sorority sister's wedding, and we were sitting down talking, and we started talking about our latest reads, what we were reading and why and what was exciting. And you and I just both were chomping at the bit talking with each other. And it was so exciting. And then you called me later.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in this room with all of these women that I've known for 30 years and thinking, we're not the same people anymore. We don't do the same things anymore. And really, what do I have in common with these ladies other than our sisterhood from college? And then you sat down next to me. We started talking about our books. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but there were sisters congregating around us, and their husbands were coming over to listen to us. And one of our friends called her daughter to ask her what was on her to be read list of some books that we were talking about. But I had to call you later and tell you that conversation, that book discussion gave me life, because it really it made me so happy to connect with all of you on a totally different level.
Exactly. Like we just met. I don't know. We just sort of fell in love with each other again as,
Yes,
sisters and friends.
absolutely.
And we were like, how have we not lived with each other in our lives for this long? But we started
Well, and the
talking.
funny thing is, though, it was like a rock rolling downhill, or a snowball rolling
Exactly.
downhill. And you and I just kept making this love of books get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of the sudden, Rachel is talking about opening a bookstore.
I mean, who would not want a bookstore? You and I both. I mean, and we had like the same vision for the store. And the more we looked into it, I have a friend who does commercial real estate, and he was telling me how much things cost downtown, and it's rather expensive actually to start a bookstore. So we thought, what can we do that we still would use our passion and our love for books, and how do we, make it work and build a tribe of women or men that would come around us and support us. And a podcast is a great way to do it. It's flexible, it's easy, we still get to talk about books, and we still get to drink. So
I guess really what I want to do is I want to really start a reading fire in people, and have them, the more you read, the more your vocabulary expands, the more your mind expands. You can go places you've never even dreamed about going physically. You can go there mentally. You can make so many movies in your mind. And it is the perfect way to introduce or reintroduce the love of reading to a whole new audience.
well, it imparts the imagination, your creativity. It engages all the learning synapses in your brain and makes connections in ways that you don't get any other way.
Agreed. And you don't have to read fine English literature for this to happen. Anything you read will do this for you. As a matter of fact, I worked for a man once, and we were talking about books, and I said, what do you read? And he said, oh, I only read nonfiction. And he said it in such a dismissive kind of condescending way. And I said, oh, okay, so you read, but you're not a reader. And he said, well, of course I'm a reader. And I said, no, if you were a reader, you would read everything available to you. You would read comic books, you would read graphic novels, you would read nonfiction, fiction, historical fiction. And I said, that is a reader. You read, and that's okay. There's just a difference. And I felt so good after that conversation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That some people love to read, and then you have, like you said, readers who just want to read everything that they can get their hands on.
Yes. But I've got to tell you, as excited as I am about the podcast, I am really fired up about the web page. And I am so excited that you've got expertise in building a web page. I had a blog spot for years and years that I wrote and posted all of my book reviews. And it just, with work and family and everything, it just got to be a little too much. And I'm so excited to get back into that through the bubblybibly.com website.
I'm excited about putting all your reviews back up and having them on the website. One, you do fantastic reviews. And two, you're a wonderful writer. It's really, you open a book and the story in such a way that it's really interesting. It's not like, oh, it was a good book and you can follow the storyline and blah, 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 blah. But you put it you put a Carmen spin on it, and it's almost as fun as reading the book.
Yeah, if I like it, I want the person reading my blog to understand why I liked it and what I liked about it and what spoke to me about it. And if I didn't like it, I also want you to know why I didn't like it. I have what I call a 100-page rule, and I will read 100 pages of a book, regardless of whether or not it grabs me. And if I just can't stand the thought of moving forward in it, I will put it down with no guilt. There are too many fantastic books out there to read for me to read books that I am not enjoying. That's not to say that if it's a hard book to read, like Toni Morrison is a hard author for me to read because she writes with such visceral emotion. Those books I love to read, but it takes me longer to get into them and invested in them. And sometimes I have to put that book aside to read later because I'm not mentally prepared for it. I had to do that with Beloved. I had to put that aside. And then when I picked it up a couple of years later, I was really open and receptive to the story and just went right through it. But other books like The Last Werewolf, I could not recommend that to anyone. And again, to read my review, you'll see why.
Yeah, exactly. There are some readers. I totally agree with you about there are too many good books out there, and not that. But one of David Sedaris, like, he's a really great writer, and he had a book about this young boy with OCD tendencies, and I could not get past page 5 because it was the young man just trying to get out the door and go to school. And it was just like you were saying, it was just so emotionally draining to read that book. And he's a wonderful writer. For me as a reader, I couldn't take that on. It just gave me such anxiety. Yeah. So I was like, he's a wonderful writer, but I was like, okay, I can't. I physically am putting myself in that young man's shoes. And it's a wonderful story. For me, I couldn't do it with my anxiety, I guess. So.
Well, and that brings up another great point, which is not every book by every author that you like, you're going to love. Ann Patchett right now is one of my favorite authors. Yeah. And I read a review about Dutch House the other day. And it was see, I haven't gotten it yet. I'm waiting for my library to get it or to get it to me. I think the wait list is 6 months. And I've got plenty to read until then. But, the reviews are pretty polarizing. People either love it or they don't.
See, so I was one that I love the book, and then I heard that Tom Hanks reads it through Audible. So then I listened to it on Audible, and I liked it better listening to it from Tom Hanks reading it.
Really?
It like I was like, oh, I loved his voice to the character because it was so much better than my voice that I had.
Yes. your mind voice.
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
I can already tell through this inaugural podcast that we're going to have so much to talk about. But since this is the first one, maybe we need to wrap it up a little bit and let the people know what's coming.
Exactly. Well, so the first thing you want to do is, if you're listening to this, be sure and check us out on our website. This is where I'm putting out the podcast, is through our website, and it's bubblybibbly.com, and that's www.bubblybibbly.com, bubblybibbly.com, and check us out there. I'll be putting all the podcasts on there, all our recipes, and Carmen's reviews of all the books that we're going to be reading, and even some extras that she's reading that we may not even talk about on the podcast.
And stay tuned next time when we are going to have a discussion on pairing books with holidays.
Oh, that's going to be great, because in this quarantine season, we just finished up Father's Day and 4th of July, so there'll probably be a lot of great books that we're going to be talking about next time. So join us then. Join us then for our second podcast of Bubbly Bibbly.